Hi everybody, welcome back to another one of my DayZ console beginner's guide to modding your server, and this is probably the most important one. I'm going to talk about types.xml in this video. This is an incredibly powerful file that is the backbone to the loot economy on your server, and often one of the most popular things that people want to do when they get a server is they want more loot, you want more guns, you want more food. In effect, often it's about making DayZ a little bit easier, or maybe a lot easier. The first thing I would say, though, the most important thing when it comes to editing your loot in your types.xml is don't go too far. Okay, you must keep a balance. So when you're thinking about increasing something, whether that be food or weapons or a combination of those things, don't add 10 times as many. Okay, so if we're looking at weapons, say like the M4A1. So let's have a look for the M4A1. So there's the M4A1 assault rifle. At the moment in the vanilla file, there should only be one, which isn't many. So we're going to put some more in. This is 1.16, may well be different by the time you come to it. So we don't want to put 100 here. We might want to go up to 10 or 15 or maybe 20, but you don't want to go mad. Don't go putting 1,000 KAs on there or 500 tins of tactical bacon. All right, so everything in moderation. And if you add stuff, like say we added so that there's 20 M4s, we should really consider taking 20 of something else away. So things that we don't want on the server. Now that's not as critical if you don't go mad, because the server can handle you adding quite a few bits to it. So let's take a step backwards and let's get the types.xml file downloaded. So you'll want to go to your Nitradro account. You'll want to go to the web interface for your particular server you're working on, and then you'll want to go into the file browser, which will then bring you here. And then you'll want to go into the mission folder. Now these techniques, although I do kind of advertise these videos for Xbox and PlayStation, works just as well for PC. And then you want to go into the Churnerus folder or the Enoch folder if it's a Livonia server. And you'll want to go inside the DB directory. And you'll want to find the types.xml. So there it is at the bottom. And you'll want to download that. So it's in your downloads folder. That is the backup. And then you'll want to copy the types.xml folder to your editing folder. That way you've got your original in your downloads as a backup, and you've got the one you're actually going to be working on. And then you'll edit that in Notepad++, and you'll end up here. So let's start at the top with what the words, just what the developers say the words. What YouTuber says that? I can't remember. That British guy, isn't he? He's really funny. So here we have a particular statement about an item. So the types.xml controls almost every single thing, like bit of stuff, bit of loot that will spawn on your server. And what it does is you have the name. So the name of the thing is in this case is the ACOG optic. So this is one of those little sites that you can put on top of your M4 to see better, see enemies and animals and zombies better. Now, the name that's here in the type file may well be different to the real-life name that you see when you're walking around the map. And that can often be for copyright reasons and lots of other reasons. So if you're not sure, do a Google search. So let me give you an example. So in DayZ, when you're wandering around and you're looking for the FAL, the really good rifle, in the types.xml it's called the LAR. If we can find it. Sorry, I've got it all around. Sorry. If you're looking for the LAR, which it's called in the real life in DayZ, it's actually called its real name is the FAL, because the real name for the FAL, semi-automatic battle rifle, in real life it's the FAL, but they have to call it the LAR in the game for copyright reasons. Say the FAMAS is another one. So in the game, the the gun that's real name is the FAMAS is actually is called the LAMAS when you're wandering around. But if you look out for, how do you spell it? FAMAS. There you go. There's the FAMAS. So there's a few things like that where the names might well trip you up. But let's start at the top. So we've got the ACOG optic. So the first thing we've got is nominal value of 15. So really there should be 15 of these on the server at any one time. And when one spawns in, it should hang around for 14,400 seconds before it disappears and spawns in somewhere else, or something else spawns in its way. What happens with the central loot economy is that all over the map, in this case Chernarus, loot is spawning in and spawning out all of the time. Not where you are, you don't see it happening in front of you, but the map is divided up into sections, and it's spawning in and it's spawning out, spawning in and spawning out. It's kind of churning around so that you get different loot in different locations at different times. That's why if you go back to the same place twice, often as long as you've left a decent enough gap in between, the stuff that you found before, if you didn't pick it up, will have gone, and something else may well be in its place. So that's what that's to do with. Then we've got the restock timer, and the restock timer is the time in seconds between each new one spawning in, and that's to do with the minimum there. So the minimum is 8. So what this is saying is that although there should be 15 of these, as they get used up, don't start restocking them until you get down to 8. When you get down to 8, start restocking them, but have 1800 seconds between each one that spawns in. I guess they do this so that you don't end up with a load spawning in at the same location. Quant min, quant max. So this is to do with items that have other items inside of them, not in terms of batteries, but in terms of things like bullets in magazines or tablets inside medical bottles, or water inside canteens. Now with an optic, it doesn't have anything inside it, so the quant min and quant max are set to -1, which means this doesn't mean anything, this value, so we would leave that. Cost is 100. This is to do with whether this item is important for the server to spawn in. I think everything is 100 at the moment. Now this is a very important line here. So these are the flags that are set with this item, and they tell the game how to count the ACOG optics. Because if you think about it, this optic could be on the floor, could be on a gun, could be in someone's bag, could be in someone's hand, could be in a barrel, could be in a chest. They could have buried it under the ground, could be on a zombie, all these sorts of things. But this line says actually only count the ACOG optic where it's on the map. So it's sitting there on the map. You can count it there. If a player picks it up like that, or it's in some sort of container, don't count it. So that way, and this is a good setup, because it means if as players hoard things, as players do, the game is going to spawn some more in. So although there's a nominal of 15 for this ACOG optic, they could end up with 30, 40, 50 on the server, because people have got them in, they're on their guns, or in their backpacks, or in their hoards, in their sea chests and things like that, so that new ones will spawn in for people to use. DE loot at the end, what this tag is, that stands for dynamic event loot. So that means it will spawn in at something like a helicopter crash. So if something has a DE loot of 1, that's where it will spawn in. An example of that would be the LAR, or the FAL rifle. And crafted means that this item doesn't spawn in, it is made. So you have to make it. So like some of the ghillie wraps, or things like the crafted tents, or the improvised backpacks. And what you'll find is with those is they'll have a nominal of 0, and they'll be crafted. But we may well come across in those in the video. So let's say we wanted to increase the number of ACOG optics. Again, we don't want to increase too many. So when we would go up to 20, and we would increase the minimum to 15, and that would do that. So we're increasing the number that are there. But then we get these two values here. Whoops. Category name and usage name. And what these do is that these tell the game, well, what is this thing? and where should it be spawned. Now I'll put a link in the description below the video to some articles about the central loot economy in DayZ. And basically what you have is everything has these tags. So here we go. So these tags, so for example, if something is tagged as military, it will be spawning building and items used by the Generation Defence Force and military camps and bases. If it's tagged as coast, buildings and items that would normally be found on the coast. If it's tagged as farm, buildings and items that are normally found in farms. So the DayZ loot system is really cool and really clever and really logical. You know, if you want to find some nails or a lump hammer or something like that, you'll find that probably in an industrial area. If you want to find an M4, that'll be on a military base. If you want to find some compost, the lime for when you're farming, when you're growing stuff, you'll find that in a shed outside a house. If you want to find normal clothes, that would be in domestic properties. If you want to find some medicine, that would be in a hospital, or it will be in one of the clinics. Oh, so it kind of all makes sense, and that's why these things have all these tags that you can then apply. And then you've got the idea of what type of thing it is. So weapons, vehicle parts, tools, food, explosives, that sort of thing as well. So if we take the ACOG optic, it's classed as a weapon and its usage is military. So that means spawn it in a military base or a military location where the weapons would spawn. That's how it does it. Now there's another thing as well, and that's these tier values here. So if we go down to the ACOG optic 6 times, we can see this has also got, so it's military, weapons, it's also police, so you could find it in police stations, and tier 4 and tier 3. Now what that means is that on the map, if you imagine sort of tier 1 is kind of along the coast areas, tier 2 is kind of the first, I guess, quarter of the map here, tier 3 is kind of the middle-ish bit, and then tier 4 is like around like the military base at Tizzy, the northeast airfield. So the idea is the better weapons especially will spawn in further away from the coast. On Livonia it works the other way, because you spawn in at the north of the map, so the further south you go, the higher the tier of the weapons. Now, the cool thing about that is obviously you can change these. So, you know, we've talked about how you can increase the quantity of something, but you could also change where it would spawn. So one of the things we could do with the ACOG optic 6 times, we could delete tier 4 and tier 3, and then it would spawn in military and police locations where the weapons would normally spawn all over the map. So that's nice and easy, isn't it? Let's go down, for example, to this weapon here. So here we have the AK-101. So only 2 of these spawn in at any one time, with a minimum of 1, and only in tier 4 military locations. So there's not many of them, is there? So we can say, I tell you what, let's have 10 of these. Let's change the minimum to 7, and let's copy tier 4 and change that and add on tier 3. So that should make it a little bit easier to find, shouldn't it? Let us go and have a look at, let me just have a quick look, let's just have a look at the M4, because I want to show you something else that's about the M4. Now the M4A1, which is the kind of NATO automatic or semi-automatic rifle, this has this usage flag on it as well, contaminated area. So what that means is that will then spawn in the toxic zones, the permanent toxic zones at Riffy, which is around here, or down at I can't remember the name of the other one, Pavlovo, in here. So that's what that tag is, because you might not see that in those wiki pages because it's a recent new thing. So it's a category name, contaminated area. So let's say we wanted the M4A1, we wanted more of them to spawn in. We could change the nominal till 10. We could change the minimum till 8. But let's say actually you know, I want everybody to have a crack at these things. So let's spawn it in at military areas, like so. And now M4A1s will spawn at military areas all over the map. So that's pretty cool, isn't it? Nice and easy. Now, you may well notice as you're going along that you'll see these entries. M4A1 black, M4A1 green, and you get it with the AKs as well. Now, if we look at the full entry, we'll see that these are actually crafted. Now, what you used to be able to do in DayZ is that there used to be aerosol paints. And if you had an aerosol paint, you could combine that with an M4 and paint it black or green. But the aerosols aren't in the game at the moment. So what you could do, if you change crafted to 0, counted map 1, and then copy, for example, the category and usage name for the M4A1, just paste that in there. In fact, maybe what we could do as well, if we go back up to the top, so let's copy the one from the AK101. Let's find M4A again, and let's just paste that on top of the category and usage name for the M4A1 black. So category weapons, usage military, tier 4 and tier 3. Let's put 10 of them in. Let's put a minimum of 8. Let's put a restock timer as 3,600. So now we've actually added one of the coloured weapons in, the M4A1 black. And to make it really easy with the green, what you could do is you could just copy all of that and then apply that to that one. So just paste it over the top. So now we've easily added 10 more M4A1 blacks, 10 more M4A1 greens, and they will then spawn in the map at military tier 4 and tier 3 locations, so up towards the northwest. Now, you may well have seen some of my previous videos where I use third-party web tools and downloadable tools in order to edit the types.xml. Because when we originally started editing and modding console XMLs, the sheer size and scale of especially the types.xml file was quite intimidating. And so it was like, how can we do this better? How can we do it faster? How can we do it easier? However, what I've come to discover and accept as the years have gone on as we've been doing this is that I don't think you can really beat just getting yourself a nice cup of coffee or a cup of tea or a smoothie or a drink, sitting down with your types.xml when you want to edit it, say when there's a new update coming out or something like that, and just going through it by hand and just scrolling down and seeing the stuff that's here. And then you can make the decision about what you want to add and what you want to take away. And it may seem, there's thousands of things here, and there are a lot of items, because you remember, the DayZ map is huge, and it has to spawn in, tens of thousands of items to stock this map. You may think, it's going to take forever. Okay, it might take you an hour, may take you an hour and a half, might take you, 2 hours to go through and check all this stuff, but it doesn't take that long, and it really gives you a handle on what is going to be spawning in on your server, and really enables you to get in there and see things that, especially when there's been a change, like from an update, you can go, oh, wait a minute, so AKMs, there's only one of them. Well, that's not good, because on my server I want people to be able to play with the weapons. So let's add 10 of those in. Let's change that minimum to 8. Oh, wait a minute, they're only spawning in contaminated areas at the moment. We want to change that. I want to spawn them in at military areas as well. So we could just go like that, and then we go like that. And now they're going to be coming in at military areas. Or you could even do something like this. You could paste in military, and then you could change that to village. If you had like a PvP server, maybe you could change the usage to coast. So lots of weapons would spawn in around the coast. When people first spawned in, they could pick up a gun and they could crack on and work that way. But as I say, just go through and just slowly adjust stuff. And you don't need to adjust stuff by much, because remember, DayZ is a survival game, so there shouldn't be thousands of guns scattered everywhere. And at most, you want to be tripling a few items. Most items you probably just want to be doubling. You don't want to be going crazy. And one of the things that I like to do is you can, remove the clothes that say you don't particularly want. There we go. Let's go. So jungle boots green. Well, we probably want them, don't we? Definitely. Let's do a Control F. Let's look for a skirt. So let's find all the skirts. Okay. So I don't know about you, but I have never ever put a skirt on any of my characters in DayZ, even the ladies, because they put trousers on. So there would be nothing wrong in going through and just changing the skirts to 0. Like that. Remember, change the nominal and change the minimum. Like that. Just going through, and that would remove a whole chunk of stuff from your loot economy that you never ever use, which will then get replaced by other things. And so just bear that in mind as well. And you only see that. Now, there's certain things you'll see in here that you think, well, why are they here? Oh yeah, I'll spawn them in. but don't. So what I'm talking about here is things like zombies. Okay, don't change it so zombies spawn in as loot. You don't want that. Zombies spawn in as part of an event, so that's different. I think that's probably vehicles as well. Here we go. Hatchback hood black. You don't want that. Yeah, you want them. I don't know if the cars appear here. No, I don't think they do. But you wouldn't want hatchbacks to spawn in as loot. They spawn in as part of the events file. So there we go. So go through the go through the types.xml. As I said in one of my previous videos, it really helps if you have a plan first of what you want to do. I want to increase the food, I want to increase the building items, I want to increase the weapons, and then you can work through and do stuff like that. And by all means, use things like the DayZ Wiki sites so that you get an idea of what different kind of weapons are available and tools that are available to use. And as you go through your types.xml, you'll see things and you think, what's that? And then you can do a Google search for it. And you'll find this other stuff. So there we go. That's the types.xml, the backbone of the loot economy on your server. It's how you increase the number of stuff, but don't go crazy. Just add a few things and it will make a big difference. Now, when you're finished, save the file, and you'll want to check it with your XML validator. Oh, where are we? Documents. No errors are found. So once it's validated, upload it back to your server, restart the server, and your changes will start to take effect. Remember, it can take quite a while for them to take effect. There we go. Types.xml. Hope you found that video useful. If you have, hit like if you want to see more of the same, press subscribe, and I will of course see you again soon.